Not all those who wander are lost. J.R. Tolkien. Welcome to Aegis Travel Adventures. We are Ken
and Gisele. We have been to over 100 countries and are still looking to see what is around the next corner. We love wine,
Travel, and Adventure. Listen to our podcast where we share the fun of the magical places, people, and cultures that have touched our lives.
See, Aegis,
Aegis,
travel,
travel,
adventures.
adventure.
This is Aegis Travel Adventures. This is podcast number 25, and I'm Ken.
and I'm Gisele.
And hello. Today is a few days after Valentine's Day, and we wanted to talk a little bit with you about our pre-Valentine's Day trip we took to the island of Curacao. And some people will know exactly where that is, and others will go, it's a liquor. And it
Not
is
very good liquor, by
It
the
is a
way.
blue liquor that
Not
was
very good.
created there. And when we arrived at our hotel, they gave us a glass of it, and we kind of looked at each other. Not our fave, but that's okay. Curacao is is part of the Netherland Antilles, which is they call the ABCs, Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao Islands, and Curacao is about 40 miles north of the Venezuela coast, so it's pretty close to the equator and it's pretty far south. We had just been in Utah, in Salt Lake City, and it was snowy and cold, and so we flew from Salt Lake City to Charlotte, North Carolina, changed planes, and a few hours later we left with a direct flight on American Airlines to Curacao. And we arrived and had a prearranged taxi, and I would highly advise that. Taxis are numbered, and not that this is an unsafe country, but it's always nice to know that taxis are legit, and also that you have a prearranged cost. So our taxi was $32. It was about a 20-minute ride. Seems a little expensive, but this is a part of the Kingdom of Netherlands. It's equal to the Netherlands, so sort of like a state in the U.S., equal state. And it became, in 1954, the charter for the Kingdom of Netherlands. That's when it obtained equal status. Prior to that, it was a colony. The current population of Curacao is about 160,000. The capital is Willemstad,
Which is where you'll fly into.
and we stayed at a resort that was a fairly new Hilton, but part of it had been around for a long time as the Corendon Mangrove Resort, and it's within walking distance of the capital city, on a sidewalk, but the cruise docks kind of line up from downtown in the city all the way up past our resort. So pretty much every morning we'd come out for breakfast, and there'd be one or two cruise ships in front of our beach, so to speak, which was fine.
They don't disembark near you. They disembark when they're closer into town, but you do see the cruise ships.
There was a new section of this resort called the Riff, and that has some historical significance for the area, and it was an all-inclusive. So for Hilton, I think that all-inclusives are relatively new in the last few years. So we booked this, and it included the room, beverages, including adult beverages, and food. And it had a buffet, which we ate mostly for breakfast.
You didn't have a choice. For breakfast, that's all you got. And for lunch, they had a grill section in the Riff area that we were at, and then they had the buffet. At the other section, they had a bigger grill that was outside, which we actually never went to. So the food in the buffet, I would equate it to cruise food. It was
Cruise buffet food.
cruise buffet food. It wasn't bad. It wasn't amazing. The thing that I don't care for, and that's just me. It's just so many people in the morning, and they're just loading their plates up like they've never eaten in their lives. So it just gets to be a little bit overwhelming and a little bit just too many people for me. And there's no table service for breakfast, unfortunately. When you go and you sit down, you get your food. Where we were on the Riff side, your beverages are brought to you, or you have table service. And again, the staff tried really hard. I think that they need a little more training, because it was a little challenging to get your food, to get your coffee and juice, etc. in the morning.
And it's a new resort, the Riff side, and they did bring in a substantial number of people from Turkey that were working on staff, and they spoke English.
Most of them.
Pretty well. And on the Riff side, there were also rooms still under construction. You could hear banging in the morning, during the day. But it was all new. They upgraded us because we're Diamond members with Hilton, which was nice of them. And they called it a swim-up pool. And it looked like it was like a lap pool outside our patio for about 8 rooms or so.
Yeah.
And it was nice, and it was a big room. Actually, looked like it could have a little more furniture in it than was in it. But it was all new, and a nice bathroom. Everything worked. Air conditioner was fine, and so we liked the resort. And it had some specific restaurants, like a seafood restaurant, a barbecue restaurant, an Italian restaurant. 2 of them, the seafood and barbecue, you needed to make reservations for. The other ones you could walk up to, and so that it was a step up from the buffet. And they were pretty good. I particularly liked the seafood. We had tempura battered red snapper, and it was as fresh as it could be. We did it twice. I thought the barbecue was excellent.
And the staff at the restaurants, the staff was really, they did a really good job. I liked the Italian restaurant. Mm-hmm. I thought they had really good food, but I'm always partial to Italian food. But getting back to the room for a minute, the room was really, as Ken said, it had all the things that he mentioned. The issue that we had, it really wasn't an issue, is that because this is an outside place, they allow smoking, and I don't know whether it was just the time of year we were at or just the people that were there, but it seemed everywhere you're around people smoked. And so in your room, when you walk out, you're literally right next door to your neighbors, and if they're smoking, it just becomes a little bit uncomfortable and not something you want to hang out with. And unfortunately, in the day we were there, people smoked seemingly on both sides of us. So we didn't go outside and use our lap pool very much because just the smell of smoke was overwhelming.
It just sort of hung in the area.
Yeah, it's just because there's a lot of humidity and there's not a lot of breeze. And that is the other thing we also noticed out by the pool area and by the bars. There just is a lot of smoking, and they don't seem to designate non-smoking sections. In fact, we were talking to the concierge, and I said, you need to make some rooms with a lap-up pool that you don't have smoking. You don't allow people smoking around because it makes it just not fun. So anyway.
Keep in mind, this is a European country. The resort was filled with Dutch people. In Europe, we find people smoke a lot more than in the U.S.
Yeah.
And the laws allow it in most places. And so this was pretty much an open-air resort, so smoking was allowed everywhere.
Yeah, except in the main buffet area, when you walked in, there was no smoking.
Yeah.
So that would be the thing that
The negative.
The beach by the hotel was pleasant. It was not amazing. If you Google what to see in Curacao, what's the superstar are the beaches and the snorkeling. And the beaches are amazing. We've been there before, so we didn't venture out to some of the other beaches. But some of the prettier beaches on the other side of the island, they have really pretty places to snorkel, and the water is really clear, crystal blue. But the resort didn't have that. The beach wasn't bad, but there was not a whole lot designed for snorkeling. It was mostly for just going out in the water and all that kind of good stuff.
We did take a sunset cruise, and we arranged it through the resort, and they picked us up on It looked like a old school bus that had
Yeah.
outlived its usefulness and had no shocks. And it was about an hour ride to the marina because we stopped at every hotel on the way, I think, and picked up people. Made it part of the fun.
Yeah.
And the boat was a catamaran. It was nice. Probably had 40 or
30, 40 people, something
yeah,
like that.
and they had snacks and drinks, mostly beer.
You could order beer, wine. I'm not a big fan of beer and wine. I mean, wine in plastic cups, so I drank the beer. They gave you baby beers, or little small ones, which were fine. The snacks were fine. Again, it was Ken and I always enjoy going out and being out on the water. There was not a sunset, meaning that it was really cloudy.
Little peaks here and there through, but
Yeah, but it wasn't like the oh my God
no,
sunset.
it wasn't the oh my God sunset we saw at Key West
Yeah,
that time.
right, yeah. So, but anyway, but it was fun. The people were pleasant. A lot of Dutch people, and Dutch and British people. I think that was about it. I think mostly Dutch, because
Mostly Dutch.
English was by far not the language that was spoken very much on the resort. One thing, the staff, I was impressed with the local staff that worked there. They seemed to speak several languages. We became better friends with one woman at one of the bars, and she spoke. Her English was great, but then she spoke Dutch and I think German. So
And the local language is a confluence of all that, and Spanish and African languages, and it's papiamento. So they, like in German, you'd say Dankeschön. There, they call it donkey, and
Yeah.
for thank you. And so it's kind of like, I think, when you go to Jamaica, and if you're taking a tour, you'll hear the guides talking or the bus driver, and you don't know what they're saying. A lot of tours will explain it because that language is a confluence of all these things with African that they turn into a local language, which we generally don't understand. So they had that there, but they were the locals, very fluent in multiple languages. And it's a fairly well-to-do country overall. I mean, it's not, the horrible poverty that you see in some places, in some islands. And I think it's because it's Dutch and they have a certain social net there. So people were very pleasant everywhere. They know that tourism is their bread and butter.
yeah, we walked downtown, and the same kind of touristy spaces that you see. I mean, the architecture was really pretty. It looks very European. They all look pretty colored
A lot
houses.
of pastel.
There was a kind of a funny story that because this area is known for their multicolored buildings. I was reading up on well, why are they multicolored buildings? And it was because a long time ago, I guess the mayor of the city decided that the buildings look boring, and so he demanded, or he decreed, that all the buildings should be painted multicolors. But then you read a little more backstory, was he had an interest in a paint company. So that's sort of kind of the underlying, but so it's still there, and it makes it very pretty to look at.
They had a weekend market.
Yeah.
Could call it a floating market. I'm not sure. There were some boats on a canal, but most of the goods were displayed under tents that were next to the boats.
I think it may at one time might have been a floating
Yeah,
market.
and it probably was. And they brought the boats up, and you just bought out of them. A lot of produce, looked real good. There were some knickknacks and stuff at some of the tents for tourists and that, but most of it was produce, and it was a lot of locals buying stuff.
And it didn't look the shopping we didn't do a whole lot of shopping, but all the tchotchkes and stuff that you see to buy, they look like again, what I've said before is you just go online and you type in the name of the country you're at, and they'll send you a buttload of tourist stuff with their name on it. So we didn't purchase anything. There was a lot of in one area, it's a higher end, a lot of shopping stores. There is what was the bunny one? What was the bunny, that rapper that has Mad Bunny or
Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny? Bad Bunny had a store, and there was some things. There was some mango and nicer stores. Again, I didn't do any shopping. There was lots of jewelry stores, so the markup on jewelry must be good there, whatever.
Because there's so many cruise ships. I mean, there were 2 to 3 cruise ships every day. Maybe there was 4 in some cases, because we didn't go into town every day and to look at the far end of the dock. But the duty-free stores, particularly for liquor, perfumes, and the common stuff that you see in them. We were thinking, oh, there might be some bargains in there. So we went in. Hey, they were air conditioned. It was a little hot out, and we got a little reprieve from the heat and humidity. But we looked around and we just kind of laughed. Most of it looked like it was equal to or slightly higher than U.S. prices.
Yeah, I'm always on the lookout for Tom Ford cologne, and I'm at the duty-free shops, and every place I've been around the world, I've never found it cheaper than buying in the U.S. The only advantage is you don't pay sales tax, so it's not that big of an advantage.
So yeah, and there was a carnival parade one day.
Yeah.
And it was the children's parade, and it went on for well over an hour, and drums and and some costumes and stuff. Went pretty close to our hotel, and they're big with celebrations and things like that, and I think that's good for tourism.
Well, one thing at the resort they did have every night, almost every night, and one either in our resort or the resort that's next door. And by the way, when you're staying at the Riff, you can use both facilities and go back and forth.
All the restaurants and the pools.
And they had every night they had some sort of entertainment. And one night it was just 3 people playing guitars, which we really enjoyed. But most nights it was a little more lively band. One night they had some fire dancers, which, again, it was. I think these people did it. I mean, it was obviously better than I could do with the fire, with feathers, and so they did that. And there was a lot of not too many people danced and stuff. It was mostly just entertainment. But people then they did a lot of. They had some people from Cuba, was it, or Cuba, or they were talking about from one of the other islands, and they had a large contingency of that, and so people were dancing, etc.
Also,
a lot of kids.
Corendon Mangrove side had a water park, which was for kids really, and it was kind of in the back corner, and it had slides and things. It was a nice touch.
Yeah, it was. We didn't go on it, but it looked nice. It looked pleasant. So.
And we could use that even though we were staying on the Riff side.
It was like I said. The resort was a lovely change. Ken surprised me, and because we had been in Salt Lake City and I was freezing for 10 days, so this was a nice way for me to come and de-thaw. I think it took me about 3 days to quit shivering, but it was overall I would give it a B. I'd give the food at the resort maybe a C plus for the buffet. I'd give the restaurants a B, a strong B. The drinks were okay. The liquor, the alcohol was your basic bar brands. There wasn't too many high end. Now there was a bar.
There was a cigar bar and a high end bar that you could pay for. We didn't go in it.
We talked about it several nights. We just never made it up
went.
there.
And one guy we talked to said, "Oh yeah, I went up there and I had some good stuff, but he had to pay extra." Which is fine. Being a Hilton property, we stayed at a lot of Hiltons. We're Diamond members. It was nice, and we were able to earn points on it as well. And all inclusives have their pluses and their minuses. We've stayed in Jamaica at a Secrets Resort, which I consider to be an A resort.
Yeah.
This was probably a B. It was wonderful. And
we'd go back there.
We'd go back there in a second. So you have to look at your options, and that we got a pretty good price on this kind of last minute, and that was fine. That's not why we went. We've been to Curacao before on a cruise ship just for the day, and we liked the island and the people. So anyway, that's what we did. They took U.S. dollars. Pretty much everywhere if you wanted to use them. Credit cards were widely accepted, including the taxis. And before we went, they said taxis were cash only, and that's not true. The ones that we used took credit cards. So if you're going to leave a tip, you have to tell them in front how much, because they don't ring it up separate. They do charge you to use a credit card. Most places 3% more, and the taxis did, which is fine. The local currency is the Antilles, whatever they use in
Holland.
In Holland, and we didn't get any of it, and we didn't go to any ATM. So it really made it easy to travel using U.S. dollars and credit cards.
Well, one thing at restaurants, when you ask them, a lot of places you go, you ask, can you have your credit card in the local currencies? Several people told us that in the Curacao, they don't allow that. So you're going to get charged in dollars. So not a big deal, but just to keep that in mind. So overall, I would say that we enjoyed the resort. If I was going to do it again, or I was going to do it, I would tell somebody, rent a car for a day or two, drive around to the other part of the island, see the pretty beaches, go snorkeling, maybe try to do a dinner in town, something. Evidently they've got some good restaurants. But honestly, Ken and I just really were in a mood just to sit and chill and hang out and read. It was very unexciting,
Yeah.
but it was pleasant. Yeah.
Down
so.
in Willemstad, the day we went down, we were looking at just restaurant prices, and a piece of fish, at the restaurants was about $30.
It's not cheap.
You know,
but they've
and
got some evidently really good restaurants.
Yes.
So.
So I mean, because we were staying at a all-inclusive, we kind of deferred to we'd already paid for our meals, and we didn't do that. But
Nothing popped out. It's like, oh my God, we want to go.
Yeah.
So anyway, on my favorite word there is, where is it? Dushi. Dushi. Dushi means whenever you want to describe something you like, Dushi is the right word. It's popular everywhere. If you get a drink and you love it, you say, wow, this is Dushi. It seems a little bit weird to say it in the U.S., but anyway, there's big billboards, life is douchey. And so if you ever go there, just tell somebody that life there is douchey, you're going to be good.
pick up a few of their words if you go, local words, and I think that'll get a smile on their face. And
Bom dia,
Yep.
which is good morning.
B-O-N, bone, whereas in Portuguese it's bom dia,
So
B-O-M.
anyway, that's your language lesson for the day.
Yep.
We appreciate you guys listening. We'll put this up on the web, on the internet, and also post some pictures, the links, etc. And as usual, if by chance, if anyone out there ever has any question, we would love to hear from you because no one has ever contacted us. So make me feel the love and send us a comment. Take care. This is Gisele.
This is Ken. Goodbye. Don't say that. It sounds like we're...
Oh, Ken, I'm trying to be humorous.
I know.
See, ages,
A horse.
travel,
Travel.
adventures.
Adventure.